Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra. In Kumasi, we are on Love 99.5 FM. Affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We are on Ganga FM in Jurapa, KTU Radio in Koforidua, Jubilee Radio in Keta. We are Sun City Radio also in Keta. We are on Twitter Spaces. We are on Facebook. We are on myjoyonline.com. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC and HDP pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. This afternoon, the National Security Minister joins the IGP and 4 other key witnesses at an in-camera parliamentary committee hearing today as they continue their inquest into the leaked audio plotting to oust Ghana's police chief.
Yeah, because it is important that some of the matters that we are going to dig out today will not offend national security considerations.
We'll take you live to Parliament where the hearing is taking place, and as the Inspector General of Police justifies the decision to restrict information flow to the public, citing best international practices, we found out the existing structures in the United Kingdom.
It is something we have discussed at POMAM, agree upon a strategy for redefining our engagement with the public in a manner that sits well with international best practice.
We'll also go to the Western region where residents have been placed on high alert following a gas released in the Kobna Andochrome explosion, which could potentially cause respiratory and skin abnormalities.
There's been a chemical explosion, sensitization of the public on avoiding such contacts and also how to early detect such symptoms and then report to the hospital.
We'll also bring you details about an EPA reshuffle where the Western Regional Director and others after the quarry explosion have been moved. We'll hear from the Executive Director. And when did you last eat any food prepared from the popular cooking pot Dadeseng or Akplengaze? Well, it's been identified as the source of high levels of lead poisoning, leading to reduction in IQ levels.
And we were surprised by the findings of the scientists. 55% of the lead in these metallic cookwares actually leached into the food. The experiment was conducted 6 times and the result came the same.
We have details in a first rapid market screening covering nearly 200 consumer products and food samples. We have sports.
Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo goes hard on GFA for attempting to block George Efriye's effort to appeal against his disqualification. Details in 20 minutes.
And from a bus driver to a police armored vehicle driver in Somalia.
I don't have any challenge because what a man can do, a woman can also do. So I do it boldly.
We'll tell you the story of Dorothy Osari, who is part of a small number of Ghanaian policewomen inspiring the women of Somalia with your roles in male-dominated fields. You want to stay for details of that and more here on the Midday News. I am Emefa Apawu. We settle for the details now. This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. We start off from Parliament. Well, the National Security Minister has joined the IGP, Dr. George Akufu-Dampare, and 4 other key witnesses, COP Alex Mensah, George Osari, and then also Emmanuel Jebi, as well as Bugri Nabu, at an in-camera parliamentary committee hearing today as they continue their inquest into the leaked audio plotting to oust Ghana's police chief. Well, Kandapa is actually having his testimony now, and is being taken in camera due to what the chairman of the committee, Samuel Atachia, describes as a sensitive nature of what he's sharing. He spoke to Joy News before the committee entered into the closed session.
No, it's going to be in camera.
In camera for today. But any word from you before you go? Perhaps what should we expect? Is the National Security Minister coming?
That is so. He's going to come. And then after that, the rest of them will also take their turns. Yeah.
So the in-camera is in respect to the National Security Minister?
Today's whole proceeding will be in camera. The rest of them.
That's what committee has decided.
Yes.
Is there any special reason to that?
Yeah, because it is important that some of the matters that we are going to dig out today will not offend national security considerations. And I think yesterday we said, I don't know why you want me to. The National Security Minister will finish and go. And then the rest of them will also take their stand.
Well, that's the chairman of the ad hoc committee, Samuel Atachia. My colleague Samuel Imbura has been lurking around while the in-camera hearing proceeds. And Imbura, has the National Security Minister completed his session today, and what exactly have we been able to glean?
Well, it is a blanket in-camera hearing today. The National Security Minister, Albert Kandapa, is just done with the committee and has left. The way the structure is, we didn't even see the time he came in and then the time he left. But his session with the committee has been brief. So what I am told now is that they are now going to start the interrogation with the witnesses that are before the committee. Daniel Bugina, with the star witness, is there. COP Alex Mensah, Superintendent George Asare, Superintendent Eric Emmanuel Jebi is also before the committee, with the exception of the IGP. The information I've picked is that he has engagement with the president. For that matter, he's unable to come for this meeting, but he's ably represented by his lawyers before the committee now. But yesterday, we do remember that the lawyers for the IGP requested from the committee that it will only be fair for them to hear the evidence that the accusers are bringing before the committee so that they can also go and scrutinize it. So currently, that is what is ongoing between the committee. They will listen to the witnesses and whatever decision they will take, we will hear from them shortly. But at the moment, we are only pitching camp outside, but we don't have the benefit to know what is happening in details before the committee.
Well, that's my colleague Samuel Imbura. Apologies for that cracking line there, but he earlier spoke to Bugri Nabu before his appearance. Let's listen.
Why won't you want to comment?
Why should I comment? I'm appearing in a committee. If I talk here, it means that it's against the rules of the law.
But how do you feel about the whole situation so far?
Oh, why?
You've heard the commentary so far. No, there's another video coming out. No, I'm talking about reactions from people out there. How do you feel about it?
Oh, I don't want to talk about it now.
Are you sad about how the issue is developing?
My friend, forget about continue asking me. I'm not ready.
You wouldn't comment. Chairman, so I'll be waiting for you.
So that's Samuel Imbura interacting with Bugri Nabu earlier. Imbura, you also tried to get a word from COP Alex Mensah and George Asare. What did they tell you?
Exactly. He was happily walking towards the conference room where this in-camera session is being held. I wanted to just find out from him how he feels about the testimony by his boss so far. He said he wouldn't comment. They are going in there to talk, same as Superintendent George Asare. We can listen to him.
COP, good morning. This is Samuel, Joy News. Can you talk to us briefly what you make of the process so far? Do you have something to say?
No.
You heard from your boss, Dr. Dampari, but your body language communicated otherwise, like you didn't agree with him. Is that the case? When he was giving his testimony?
Don't worry.
You wouldn't comment?
You totally.
Are we expecting a showdown in this in-camera hearing? Are we expecting?
I'm not going to
Well, that's COP Alex Mensah there interacting with my colleague Samuel Imbura earlier. We'll go back to yesterday when the IGP, Dr. George Dampari, appeared before the committee. He justified his administration's decision to restrict information flow to the media and the public, saying he's only following international best practices.
It is something we have discussed at POMAP, agree upon a strategy for redefining our engagement with the public in a manner that sits well with international best practice. You have had a system where you get up in the morning, everybody across the country, across at times district, division, and regional level, granting interviews on matters of police from a perspective that at times not informed by the full facts. And at the end of it all, when the facts come, the organization look unpresentable. It's not the invention of Dampari. It is something that we've looked at and then got all the commanders at all levels involved and get their inputs before it's handled. But we know from my little understanding of media and information space, it's like a chair. Whoever walks in first sits on it. And you cannot come and sit on top of him or her. By that time, the public might have been informed or misinformed based on that information. So we need to have a very efficient way of getting information there as soon as possible. That is why you see that in recent times, information from police across all our media space are delivered on matters as soon as we have the full facts that will inform the public to continue to deepen their trust, confidence, and respect for us. We have even gone to the extent of ensuring that when that information is out there, there is no way it becomes something that people will not rely on.
That's the IGP, Dr. George Akuffo Dampare. Well, this position has been criticized by many, including the Ghana Journalists Association, but security analyst Emmanuel Bombande and President of Imani Ghana, Franklin Kujo, supports the centralization of information by the police.
The flow of information can only be effective when it is also well coordinated. When it is not well coordinated, it can reverse the intentions for which the flow was intended. And so you want a flow that is coordinated, and that is the balance. And to that extent, therefore, you want it to be effected within the, if you call it, premises of headquarters that has verified and re-verified, so that we don't have a statement that is constantly pulled down or up.
Police communication is centralized. Why not? Shouldn't it be the case? Should every policeman wake up and be asked questions on national TV or radio and be talking without cross-checking with his superiors? It must be centralized. And that's the way a disciplined force actually behaves.
So the standard now is no police officer speaks to the media or the public. The only way you can get information from the police is through a statement from their social media platforms. Well, we are told by the IGP that the decision was taken in line with international best practices. Well, the Scotland Yard in the United Kingdom is perhaps the standard for measuring modern day policing globally. So how is it done in the UK? Former Joy News anchor, now with the BBC, Daniel Dadzi, joins us for more perspective on this matter. He joins us via Zoom. So, Daniel, how readily available is the police in providing information to the media in the UK? Hello, Daniel. You have to unmute and speak to us.
I believe I'm unmuted.
Yes, please. We can hear you now. We can hear you now, Daniel. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Emefa. Let me make this simple. I'll start by quoting the authorized professional practice documents published by the College of Policing. It's the official source of professional practice for policing, and it was updated in July 2022. There's a section here that says that it should be understood as supporting, that is the police, it should be understood as supporting and encouraging engagement between the media and police, and should not restrict engagement to those in senior positions. Responsibility for communicating rests with all those working in policing, irrespective of seniority. It says here, officers and staff of all ranks and roles are encouraged to provide factual information to the media concerning operational incidents or investigations. So this is basically the document that guides policing here in the UK, according to their website. And they tell us that officers of all ranks are free to, as long as the information is verified as factual, share same with the media.
Okay, but you co-host currently the BBC Focus on Africa. How has it been, if anything, regarding the police issues comes up? How easy is it to get the police to speak in spite of this particular document that you've quoted to us?
So the nature of Focus on Africa, as your listeners would well know, is that we deal mainly with happenings on the continent, but I do work with domestic stories as well, with stories that have to do with the UK when I'm working in other teams. And quite interestingly, last Saturday, there was a key story concerning the escape of a prisoner from Wandsworth Prison. His name was Daniel Khalife. And at every stage, we did rely on information provided by the police. And I do remember there were times where they were narrowing the search down to certain sections of London. There was a suspected sighting, and at every stage we were well informed by the police before we were able to go on air. And when he was finally caught, we were able to then draw sort of a map of how the search took place, how the police closed in on Daniel Khalife, and what happened eventually, and how he even escaped and everything. All that information was available to us. Of course, there are guiding principles that the police work with, which they try and protect privacy. They only give out information where it is necessary. But at the heart of it, I think the principle that governs the relationship with the media is that of cooperation.
Okay, thank you very much. And that's Daniel Dadzi, co-host of BBC Focus on Africa, former Joy News anchor. Now, I'll take you to the western region where health facilities in the Shama district have activated their alert levels in 9 communities after a release of dangerous gas from the Antuaboso explosion last weekend. The Western Regional Health Directorate has issued directives to residents in these communities to immediately report any anomalies with their skin and respiratory organs for immediate attention. Deputy Regional Public Health Director Dr. Gifty Amoge indicates in a public health emergency response meeting that the explosion may have possibly been caused by a chemical which could result in inflammation and itching when it comes into contact with the body.
There's been a chemical explosion at the Gravodo sub-district. So that is what happened. And so the very next day, I think even started at dawn from where the site, if it was very near, it would have been a terrible disaster, because it would have just abrasions and all that. Then back pain, waist pain, and all that are also being reported. For the deaths reported, we see that we are matching the cases as to the number of deaths by age. So we see that for most of them that were working there, they were in their youthful age. So we see most of the 50s to 59s that died. The head, their manager himself is dead. The cashier too is dead. So he's gone with the money. No, I hear the money flew and community members collected. So there's no money. So currently for surveillance, what we've done so far,
well, Dr. Amogi also indicated that officials are actively engaged in disseminating vital information to prevent further community exposure to harm and advise companies operating in the highly industrialized region to handle hazardous chemicals with utmost care.
This is also a whole new ball game altogether. It's telling us that as a region with so many industries and different kind of things being done, we are working with different kind of chemicals and different interplays at so many times. So we ought to be more cautious. We, together with the other services, the police, the DCE, the assemblies and all that, have come together, been able to condone the area. So it's off limits for the general public. We are continuing intensively with sensitization of the public on avoiding such contacts and also how to early detect such symptoms and then report to the hospital. We have gone around the 9 affected communities within the Shama district, redirecting them to their nearest facilities that are safe. And we've made provision there so that when they go, they will be able to get the needed quality services without any compromise at all.
Meanwhile, 7 communities have been hugely impacted by the explosion. Several buildings stand cracked, their windows and ceilings shattered, leaving residents in despair. The National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, is working to compile a comprehensive report for the Assembly to provide solutions for those affected. Here's the Shama DC, Ebenezer Dadzi.
The communities around almost as far as the Basu Junction, so let's say about 7 communities, they are all affected. Each community having 2 or 3 buildings, some having their ceilings, some having their windows, some having louver blades and all that. So it cuts across. Yes, after the report is being submitted, then that's why we've asked them also to make recommendations. So once it comes, we sit down and know the way forward.
Well, on the other hand, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, has undertaken a major reshuffle, including a transfer of the Western Regional Director and others after the quarry explosion. A letter on Wednesday, September 13, signed by the Executive Director, Dr. Henry Kwabnako Kofu, has asked the Western Regional Director to report to Accra for reassignment, where we'll get more details of that subsequently. Now, let's stay on issues relating to health, and a new study on nearly 200 consumer products and food samples in Ghana has reviewed worrying levels of lead contamination in the popular metal cookware Dadeseng. The study, conducted by the environmental NGO Pure Earth Blacksmith Initiative, reviewed disturbing levels of lead in very common consumer products. We'll get to hear from the country director for Pure Earth shortly on this, but first, head of our health desk, Fred Smith, has been taking a look at this particular report, joins me with portions of that finding. So what exactly did the study discover?
Well, Emefa, this is it's a part of a global rapid market screening study on lead contamination, and this study, which happens to be the largest of its kind, highlights alarming levels of lead in consumer goods and food produced in low and middle income countries, including Ghana, with far-reaching global consequences. And a study in Ghana analyzed over 193 consumer products and food samples across 4 regions, uncovering high rates of lead contaminations, and the findings show that there's high levels of lead contaminations in the following. So the metal foodware that the same as you talked about has 55% lead exposure, and almost all of us have eaten from Dadisen before, because if you want wache, bankun, all of those from Dadisen. The ceramic foodware, 18%. Toys that we buy for our children, also 14%. Cosmetics, 7%. You know, kaji, some of our Muslim sisters use it, and it produces a lot of lead.
It's the local mascara, we call it.
Mascara, that's what it is. So those are the findings they made in this.
But interestingly, a separate report launched on the same day by the World Bank also corroborates the high levels of lead exposure. Tell us more.
Yes, indeed. It's by the World Bank, and the World Bank did this in collaboration with the Lancet Planetary Health paper, and it showed that the levels of lead exposure is very high. It says children under 5 years old worldwide lost 765 million IQ points. Those living in low and middle income countries lost 729 million IQ points. On average, an average loss of 5.9 IQ points per every child, and this IQ point loss is 80% greater than the previous estimates.
Thank you very much. That's the head of our health desk, First Smith. We can now listen to Country Director for Pure Earth, Eastmont, Wisdom Kwanzaa.
What this points to is that we are not safe. If you happen to be eating from any of these metallic or that is saying foodware, we are at risk of lead poison. We've gone a step further. Our scientists have conducted what we call the leachate test to determine the percentage of leach of this lead concentration in this metallic or aluminium cooking pot into the food. And we were surprised by the findings of the scientists. 55% of the lead in this metallic cookwares actually leached into the food. The experiment was conducted 6 times, and the result came the same. So that is a cause for concern for everyone. And that is why we are putting this information to the public.
On that concerning note, we'll take a quick break here on the Midday News, live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra, and Kumasi on Love 99.5 FM. We're on X Spaces, we're on Facebook, we're on myjoyonline.com. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duroplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC and HDPE pipes and water tank. Where Duroplus goes, water flows. We return from the break with sport, and then we put a spotlight on Dorothy Asari, from bus driver to a police armored vehicle driver in Somalia.
I don't have any challenge, because what a man can do, a woman can also do. So I do it boldly.
When budgets are tight and money difficult to come by, you want to be sure you get the best value for your money. These are not times to be spending money fixing expensive engine problems because of cheap fuel and lubricants. Drive to a Petrosol station today and buy your quality fuel and lubricants, and rest assured of fuel that lasts long and lubricants that prevent expensive engine problems. Hear the sound. Petrosol, clean fuel in full quantity.
Imagine say water wake up at dawn, no bath, no chop, where it vanish for your area for 2 weeks. You not get one drop safe inside your tank.
Hey.
Haja, our life was in dangerous. Only our neighbor get water with water tank.
Water tank?
Yes, water tank. Mamma mia, that water tank get meter for checking water level. That water tank is fine past Kumasi Selenium. That water tank be tough like Ghana Army. That water tank, they carry water pepper. So say some no go left inside the supply tank. What a tank! As my boss, Mr. Poncho, go talk.
Beautiful, durable, with water level indicator and accurate volume of water. Water tank. What a tank. By Duraplast.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Let's do sports. Mubarak, what do we have?
Thank you very much, Emefa. Now, Dr. Nyaho Tamakulu has criticized the Ghana Football Association for attempting to block George Afriyie's effort to appeal against his disqualification to contest for the presidential seat. Afriyie was disqualified by the Elections Committee for failure to provide the required number of members to support his candidacy. He was then provided with a 3-day period to contest the decision, but the appeal process was not plain sailing as his reps were initially denied entry at the FA's headquarters. Though the appeal was eventually filed, Dr. Nyaho Tamakulu described the incident as unfortunate and shameful.
The FA is a democratic institution, and such a practice does not augur well for the democratic institution they say themselves to be. That conduct, to me, was very shameful. It looks as if the principles and the statutes of the FA are not being respected. That is shameful and unfortunate. Now let me make this final remark. Elections must be conducted on an even playing field. If that is not done, it ceases to be an election.
That's former president of the Ghana Football Association, Dr. Nyaho Tamakulu. Back to you, Emefa.
Thank you very much, Mubarak. Let's shift attention to the Tema motorway. In the past 2 years alone, 12 persons have lost their lives at the Tema Toll Plaza, and that's according to data from the Motor Traffic and Transport Department. As a result, the Ghana Highway Authority is taking measures to mitigate the risks by removing toll booths on the Accra-Tema motorway, which we are told will cost some 1 million. Well, the Public Relations Officer of the authority, Cecil Ni Obodai-Wintum, explains that the Ghana Highway Authority has implemented remedial measures to ensure a safer journey along this route.
And I understand all the arguments that you can't use bitumen and all that to patch.
So why are you doing that?
Tells me that.
So why are you using bitumen?
Yeah, but we can also cut that section and say we are concretizing that section. You know the number of hours it will take to cure. You know the congestion you bring on the motorway. So these are just remedial measures that our engineers are putting in place to enhance the motorability of the motorway. And I'm only saying that until we all agree nationally that we reconstruct the motorway, these remedial maintenance activities will continue to go on. People must now apply caution.
That's Cecil Ni Obodai-Wintum there speaking on the Super Morning Show with Kojo Yankson. Well, the bigger problem is the safety of the Accra-Tema motorway. We can hear from some commuters who are urging the government to fix the road to prevent further accidents on the stretch.
We take things for granted. We are always our superiors, our bosses are not in. Our bosses are doing politics instead of working. This motorway issue can be solved once and for all.
The solution is not about big English. Look, the motorway has 2 stretches. Close one side to the open one side to the traffic and close the other one and fix it. If it takes a year to get that road fixed, we prefer it.
And all we are hearing is excuses upon excuses. Excuse upon excuses when people are dying.
Well, some road users there of the Tema motorway there speaking on the Super Morning Show. Now, in 2011, she was a Metro Mass Transit bus driver. Then 2 years later, she quit her job to join the Ghana Police Service and now driving a police armored vehicle in Somalia. That's the story of Corporal Dorothy Asare, who is part of a small number of Ghanaian policewomen with a Ghana-formed police unit inspiring the women of Somalia with their roles in male-dominated fields. Civil war and activities of terrorist groups like Al-Shabaab have plunged Somalia into more than 2 decades of instability. Maxwell Agbagba met Corporal Dorothy Asari and personnel from the Ghana-formed police unit. He reports from Somalia.
I said, this is the way we wanted to be. This is the way we wanted to be.
It is 10:30. Some of the 158 personnel of the Ghana-formed police unit are gathered on the field singing morale-boosting songs before the day's patrols in the town of Badoa here in Somalia. Behind them are armored vehicles they'll be using for the patrols.
Whoa, whoa.
Here, I've met one of the women in the team, Corporal Dorothy Asari.
So we came, that's 7 months now. For driving, I don't think I have any challenge because I was a driver before coming to the police, and I've been driving for so many years. So I don't have any challenge because what a man can do, a woman can also do. So I do it boldly.
As we drove through town with the team, the evidence of how conflict can destroy countries became clearer. I saw highly fortified walls in many neighborhoods used to protect residents against attacks from Al-Shabaab. The checkpoints were also many. Commander of the Ghana-formed police unit, Superintendent Eric Van Kofi, says, aside from contributing to the peace process, women like Dorothy Asari, through their role, empower the women of Somalia.
We have women who are gunners, women who are tactical communicators who control their movement, and the women drivers here, women drivers who also take part in the operations that we do. It is.
And that's how we end today's edition of the Midday News. I am Emefa Apawu. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Living Word with Pastor